Daniel never planned to become the kind of man who measured his life in exhaustion. But somewhere between the 4 a.m. alarm clocks, the cold coffee, and the unpaid bills stacked on the kitchen counter, that's exactly who he became. At 28, he was working 3 jobs: construction during the day, gas station attendant in the evenings, warehouse loading trucks overnight. Sleep wasn't rest anymore. It was a countdown until the next responsibility. And the worst part? None of it was for him. It was for his family. 2 years earlier, everything had collapsed overnight. His father suffered a stroke that left him partially paralyzed. Medical bills poured in faster than insurance could cover. His younger brother Tyler had just started college, and his mother, already fragile emotionally, fell into depression trying to hold everything together. Daniel had been the stable one, the reliable one, the quiet backbone nobody noticed because he never complained. So he made a decision. He dropped his own plans. He emptied his savings, and he stepped in. "I've got it," he told his mother that night at the hospital, his voice steady even though his chest felt like it was caving in. "We're gonna be okay." At first, they were grateful. His mother cried and hugged him. Tyler promised he'd help once he graduated. Even his father squeezed his hand with tears in his eyes. For a while, that gratitude fueled Daniel more than sleep ever could. But gratitude has an expiration date. Months passed, then a year, then 2, and slowly, appreciation turned into expectation. Bills weren't discussed anymore. They were handed to him. Groceries weren't requested. They were assumed. When something broke in the house, everyone just looked at Daniel. He became less of a son and more of a solution. There were nights he'd sit in his car after work, engine off, hands still gripping the steering wheel, staring at nothing, just breathing, trying not to feel how tired he really was. What hurt the most wasn't the work. It was the loneliness. No one asked how he was doing. No one noticed the weight loss, the dark circles, the way his hands shook from caffeine and exhaustion. Except one person. Her name was Melissa. She worked the late shift at the gas station on weekends, and sometimes their schedules overlapped. She noticed things others didn't. "You look like you haven't slept in a week," she said one night, sliding a coffee toward him. He laughed. "Try to." She didn't laugh back. "That's not healthy, Daniel." It was the first time in months someone had said his name with concern instead of need. They started talking more after that. Nothing dramatic, just small conversations during quiet hours. But those moments became the only part of his day that felt human. One night, around 2 a.m., he admitted something he hadn't said out loud before. "I don't know how long I can keep doing this." Melissa looked at him carefully. "Then why do you?" He shrugged. "Because if I don't, everything falls apart." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that stayed with him. "Sometimes people let things fall on you because you never let them fall at all." He didn't fully understand it then, but he would. A few weeks later, Daniel came home early for once. His construction job had been rained out, and he thought maybe he'd surprise his family with dinner. He walked into the house and heard voices in the kitchen. His mother and Tyler. They didn't know he was there. "I just don't understand why he acts like he's the only one doing anything," Tyler was saying. Daniel froze. His mother sighed. He chose to take all this on. Nobody forced him. Something inside Daniel cracked. Tyler continued, frustration in his voice. "And honestly, Mom, I think he likes being the hero. Makes him feel important." Daniel's chest tightened. Hero? He hadn't felt like a hero in years. He felt like a machine running on fumes. Then his mother said the sentence that shattered him. "Well, if he's going to help, the least he can do is not make us feel guilty about it." Daniel stood there, grocery bag still in his hand, heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. In that moment, he realized something terrifying. They didn't see his sacrifice. They saw his responsibility. And responsibilities aren't appreciated. They're expected. He quietly set the groceries down and walked back out of the house without saying a word. He drove for hours that night. No destination, just movement. By sunrise, he found himself parked near the lake outside the city. The water was calm, reflecting the orange glow of morning. For the first time in years, he asked himself a question he'd been avoiding. What about me? The answer scared him, because he didn't have one. That morning changed everything. Not dramatically, not overnight, but something inside him shifted. He started noticing how much of his life existed only for others. He started noticing how little existed for himself. And slowly, painfully, he began pulling back. He didn't quit helping completely, but he set boundaries. He reduced overtime. He He said no sometimes. And that's when the real conflict began. His family didn't thank him for the years he'd given. They got angry about the parts he stopped giving. His mother accused him of changing. Tyler called him selfish. Even his father, who rarely spoke since the stroke, looked at him with disappointment that cut deeper than words. One night, Tyler exploded. "You think you're the only one with problems?" he shouted. "You act like some martyr. Nobody asked you to ruin your life." Daniel felt something inside him snap. "I didn't ruin my life," he said quietly. "I paused it. For you." The room went silent. But instead of understanding, Tyler rolled his eyes. That was the moment Daniel realized something devastating. Some people don't see sacrifices. They only see what you stop providing. That night, he packed a duffel bag. Not dramatically, not angrily, just tired. His mother cried when she realized he was leaving. "After everything we've been through," she said. Daniel looked at her, eyes red but calm. "No," he said softly. "After everything I've been through." He moved into a tiny studio apartment across town. It was barely furnished. The mattress sat on the floor. The kitchen had one pan. But for the first time in years, it was quiet. He slept 10 hours the first night. When he woke up, he didn't recognize the feeling. Rest. Over the next year, Daniel rebuilt himself. He dropped the warehouse job, then the gas station. He focused on construction full-time and took certification courses at night. Without the constant financial drain, he started saving again. Melissa stayed in his life too. She didn't push. She didn't demand. She just supported. 2 years later, Daniel became a site supervisor, then a project manager. Eventually, he co-founded a small contracting company with a colleague. Life wasn't perfect, but it was his. One afternoon, nearly 5 years after he'd left home, his phone rang. It was his mother. He almost didn't answer, but he did. Her voice was shaky. Tyler had gotten into serious debt after a failed business venture. Their father's medical condition had worsened. They were at risk of losing the house. For a moment, Daniel felt the old weight trying to settle back onto his shoulders. The old instinct to fix everything. But he was different now. Stronger, healthier, clearer. "I can help," he said calmly, "but not the way I used to." There was silence on the other end. "What do you mean?" she asked. "I'll help you make a plan," he said. "I'll support where I can. But I'm not carrying everything alone anymore." His mother started crying. But this time, Daniel didn't feel guilty. Because he finally understood something. Helping others should never require destroying yourself. A few weeks later, he visited the house. It looked smaller than he remembered. Older. Tyler opened the door. For the first time in his life, his younger brother looked humbled. "I'm sorry," Tyler said quietly. 3 words Daniel never thought he'd hear. Inside, his father squeezed his hand again, just like years before. But this time, Daniel wasn't the exhausted son trying to hold the world together. He was a man who had learned his worth. And sometimes, the strongest thing you can do for the people you love is stop sacrificing yourself so they can learn to stand on their own. Because real family doesn't break you. And if it does, you're allowed to rebuild without them.